What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. As we inch closer and closer to the NBA regular season, we actually just have a little bit until the preseason officially starts, so we have very little time, surprisingly, left until we get to watch our favorite teams play basketball again. But one of the best parts of the offseason is obviously all the trades, the free agency moves, and all of that, and each team can look extremely different just over the course of one singular offseason. So today, the NBA, or actually a few days ago, NBA.com released their official power rankings for each conference 1 through 15, and we're going to be checking those out and giving you guys my first initial reaction to each and every one of those. Obviously, some of them are going to change as we go through these final weeks of the offseason, but that's what I want to talk about in today's video. And tomorrow, you guys will be seeing the first video I've done in a long time on NBA 2K, so be sure to stay tuned for that. It's going to be a fun simulation style video. We're going to do some experiments. It's going to be a blast for that, and make sure to check it out. It'll be tomorrow morning around this same time. Thank you guys for watching this one. Let's get into the power rankings. Here we are on the website. Obviously, we're going to begin with the Eastern Conference. That's just how it always goes, and from the front cover, I can tell who's pretty much going to be in that #1 spot. And we're going to start out with the Boston Celtics, obviously coming off of a finals run where nobody really expected them to make it anyways. They only got better this past offseason. They brought in Malcolm Brogdon, a guy who, if healthy, can make them an extremely much better team than they were last year, and that's saying something considering they made that finals run. He is a great point guard, especially compared to what Marcus Smart is. They are two completely different types of guards, in my opinion, and Brogdon does a lot of things that Mr. Smart obviously cannot do for the Celtics. But they did bring in the Danilo Gallinari, and the trade rumors for Kevin Durant are still circulating, so there's a big opportunity that this team gets worse depending on what they give up, or they get better depending on what they get in return with Kevin Durant. Second up, we've got my Milwaukee Bucks. Big fan of this team, obviously, if you haven't understood that yet, but we didn't have the greatest offseason. We didn't have a bad offseason either. We still have Giannis. We still have our core players that have won us a championship before. And in my opinion, I think we're good enough with that. If Joe Ingles comes back and does at least, 20-50% of what he was in the past, then he is a good signing to me, or in my opinion. I'm a big fan of Joe Ingles as a player. Next up, we've got the 76ers. They bring in D'Anthony Melton, an aging PJ Tucker, a guy I'm a big fan of, but I don't know his role just yet. Daniel House, obviously, is another guy they were able to bring in when they wanted to. Danny Green, and they don't mention it on here, but James Harden takes a massive $15 million pay cut just to allow them to build this team. I think this team could have been second or first on this list. They had an amazing offseason, something I did not see coming. So number 3 is respectable considering the Bucks and the Celtics are both still good, are great teams. So I think the 76ers became a great team, and it's respectable to have these 3 spots held by these 3 teams. Next up, we have the Miami Heat. They didn't really have too much. They obviously haven't had any good additions, and the loss of PJ Tucker is a very massive loss. They still kept Tyler Hero, didn't end up trading him, didn't end up trading Bam Adebayo, so it's the same team essentially. You just get rid of PJ Tucker, and that can make a little bit of a difference, obviously, on the defensive side of the ball. So I think the Heat do definitely take a hit to their quality team next year, and I think 4th is probably a good spot for them. 5th up, we have the Raptors. They bring in really Otto Porter Jr. is the only notable name, but he's coming off of a championship season. Maybe he can give you that veteran presence. Obviously, Scotty Barnes is going to continue to get better. Pascal Siakam, if he can just stay at the level he's at right now, and Fred VanVleet as well at an all-star level, then Gary Trent Jr. gets better. This team, I made a video about them a few days ago. If you didn't check it out, it kind of blew up, and it's how I feel about the Raptors. They have so much potential. They could have been first on this list if Scotty Barnes takes another leap. That's a great team. I'm so excited to see them play, and number 5 is definitely a good spot for them. 6th, we have the Bulls. I like the Andre Drummond signing, especially with how much he counteracts what Vucevic can't do, and Vucevic counteracts what he can't do as well. The Bulls did lose easily, basically, to the Bucks in the playoffs. Obviously, Lonzo Ball wasn't there. They had a few other injuries throughout the series, but DeMar DeRozan has to fix his choking in the playoffs. At the end of the day, Goran Dragic and Andre Drummond aren't going to win you a playoff series or win you a championship, especially after starting 35-5 last year and then losing and then finishing, with the record that they did finish with. It's just a rough finish to the season. And I like the Bulls as a team, but I think 6 is a little high for them. I think they're not going to be as good as they were last year, and that's surprising to say, considering they definitely got 2 good signings in Goran Dragic and Andre Drummond. Next up, we have the Brooklyn Nets. 7 is a little generous. 7 would be assuming that they keep Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Obviously, the departures, they lose Bruce Brown, they lose Goran Dragic, who didn't play as much as he was expected to, but still a noticeable loss. Andre Drummond is another guy that they played a good bit, actually. He was their starting center for a good bit of the season, and he was a good rebounder and defensive guy. So they've lost a few good key players, and obviously, chances are Kyrie's traded, chances are KD's traded, so I could see them falling all the way down to around maybe the 12th spot on this list. I don't think that they're going to be sitting at this 7th spot if they trade KD and Kyrie. So this is a little high for them. Atlanta Hawks at number 8. I would definitely put them above the Brooklyn Nets. DeJounte Murray is an outstanding pickup, especially considering the strengths and the weaknesses of Trae Young's game. DeJounte Murray just completely balances that out. He's not the greatest offensive guard, but you didn't need an offensive guard. He is an elite defensive player. 2 Holiday brothers, and they do lose Kevin Huerter, Danilo Gallinari, and DeLon Wright, but I have faith in this team to make another playoff run. I could see them making it to the second round of the playoffs after a disappointing season last year. This team is going to be in for something big and bigger, especially compared to what they did last year. 9th for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Move those boys on up to about 6th or 5th in the rankings, because the Cavs are going to surprise a lot of people. I'll probably make a video about them alone. Similar to how I feel about the Raptors, this team had a great offseason. They kept all their pieces. They have low expectations, as this thing states, so they're not in a situation where they have to win now, but this team is ready to win now. Jarrett Allen is an all-star. Darius Garland's an all-star. Evan Mobley will be an all-star. Ricky Rubio, if he can come back and play like he did in Cleveland last year, this team is amazing. Colin Sexton is maybe a still mystery there, but at the end of the day, the Cavs have a lot of talent, and I definitely believe in them being not a top 5 or 6 seed in the Eastern Conference. Next up, we have the Knicks. Jalen Brunson, Isaiah Hartenstein, maybe their key additions. I love the Hartenstein addition. I obviously don't like the Brunson addition, but he's a good, solid player, not for the contract, but what are you going to do at this point? It's been talked about enough. This team is going to be bad. They may make the playoffs. They may make the play-in. They might squeak by. RJ Barrett has an opportunity here, in my opinion, to become that guy in New York. If they don't trade him for Donovan Mitchell, I think RJ Barrett can become at least an all-star with the Knicks. I don't know if Randall will bounce back, so I'm going to keep them at this 10th spot. I don't think it's going to be that bad of a season for them, especially with 37 and 45 being their record last year. They could make the play-in. They could make the playoffs. It's going to be an okay year. Obviously, Knicks fans will be disappointed. Next up, we have the Wizards, and I'm going to move them down a few spots no matter what happened to these next few teams. Washington Wizards signed Bradley Beal to a massive contract. It's going to screw up their future, and it's going to make it difficult to get them a lot of different big-name contracts on the board or re-sign their guys that they would like to re-sign. Kristaps and Bradley Beal aren't going to win you playoff games, so I don't think this team's ready for a run to the playoffs. Maybe a play-in appearance just off of having Bradley Beal, but at the end of the day, the Wizards are going to be bad next year, so I would move them down a few spots. Now we have the Hornets. 12 is fine for them. They did lose Miles Bridges, obviously, over that controversial stuff, and he is out indefinitely. Steve Clifford, in my opinion, is a good signing. Mark Williams is an okay draft pick. Not much happened for them. I'll agree with 12th spot or in the power rankings. Detroit Pistons at 13. I'm actually going to jump them over the Hornets, over the Wizards, and in my opinion, over the Knicks. I love Jaden Ivey with Cade Cunningham. Jalen Duren is going to be a great guy. Alec Burks as well. Nerlens Noel is a veteran presence. He's a very good defensive center, so they needed something like that with Isaiah Stewart being a smaller guy at the center position. Obviously, Jeremy Grant got traded, but that was expected. The Pistons had a very, very good offseason, and don't quote me on this, but I would not be shocked if they try and make a play-in appearance. They might be able to get to that 11 seed late in the season, and if they get that 10 seed, I would not be shocked if they made a play-in appearance. Orlando Magic, I'm jumping all of those teams. The Magic have one of the most talented rebuilding rosters out there with Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz, Jalen Suggs, Mo Bamba, Wendell Carter Jr., Jonathan Isaac. The list goes on and on. We have to see what Jonathan Isaac can do coming back into the season after he hasn't played in a long time. But this team is ready for something. Maybe it's a play-in appearance, but going into the future, they are going to be a team to not mess with. I'm very excited for the Magic. 14th is a little disrespectful. And finally, we have the Pacers, and honestly, 15th is probably about right. I would maybe actually put the Wizards at the 15th spot, but the Pacers are going to be very bad, losing Malcolm Brogdon. Benedict Mathurin and Tyrese Halliburton might just be one of the better guard duos in a few years, but we won't know until we see it. I love Tyrese Halliburton. I think he's got the chance to be an all-star, superstar caliber player in Indiana. So 15th, sure, they're going to be bad, but they're going to be entertaining. I agree with this. And now we are going to jump right into the Western Conference. Overall, that Eastern Conference was pretty good. I didn't disagree with most of it as the page finally loads, but Golden State were starting out the Western Conference. How else would you put it? They didn't get worse. They honestly got better with Dante DiVincenzo. He's kind of similar to Gary Payton II. Just a downgrade in payment. They don't have to pay him as much as GP wanted, so it's an upgrade in my opinion. JaMychal Green is another stretch 4. Probably won't play much, but he's going to be there. This team didn't get worse. They didn't get a lot better, but they got slightly better, and that's all you need to do after coming off of a championship season. Warriors at number 1. Phoenix Suns at number 2. Maybe I just have to see how they're going to bounce back from that playoff loss, and that's something we'll see going into next year, but I guess number 2 is respectable for them, and if they make a trade for Kevin Durant, things obviously will change, but they have not just yet. I honestly would put them beneath the Clippers, who are coming in at the number 3 spot. If you have a healthy Kawhi, a healthy Paul George, healthy John Wall, Reggie Jackson, all of those guys on that team, they are ready to finally make that finals run. We haven't seen this team finally have a healthy playoff run across the few seasons they've been together. Even last year, they almost squeaked into it. Losing Isaiah Hartenstein does hurt, but Ivica Zubac is still a guy that can play you some very solid center minutes. This team is great. I think they deserve to be second on the list, especially if Kawhi Leonard is going to be healthy. I think this team is going to be a very good quality Western Conference team. The Nuggets at 4, bringing back Jamal Murray is going to be interesting. Finally, him and Michael Porter Jr. coming off of injury. KCP, Bruce Brown, and Ish Smith are all very good pickups. Will Barton and Monte Morris are big losses, but this team did not get much better or much worse. 4 is probably about where I'd rank them, considering I don't think they have what it takes for a finals run. Next up, we've got the Grizzlies at number 5. Didn't get better. Honestly, in my opinion, they got a lot worse on the defensive side of the ball, losing DeAnthony Melton and Kyle Anderson, 2 guys that provided them with some very important depth on their bench. I think that was a big hit to the Grizzlies. 5th is where I'd put them. I don't think they're going to be quite as high record-wise as they were last season, but I do think that they'll be able to make a run of some sorts for the playoffs. I think they'll obviously be a lock-in for the playoffs, but will they make it past the first or second round? We'll have to see that. Dallas Mavericks at 6. I'm not convinced of that just yet. Christian Wood is a magnificent pickup. JaVale McGee is another guy that is a good pickup. Kind of the opposite of what Wood does as a player. Losing Jalen Brunson was very big for this team. He was the second primary ball handler, a very good offensive weapon beside Luka Doncic, and now they're basically solely focusing on what Luka Doncic can do. At the end of the day, I don't think he has it in him to put them much farther than the second round or the third round. Again, maybe a finals appearance, but if he does, it's likely going to be a finals loss, if we're being honest. Next up, we have the Timberwolves. 7, I guess, is fine. Rudy Gobert is still the defensive player of the year that he has always been, so the pickup isn't bad for the team. Just how much they traded away for him is going to be interesting to see. So 7 through 10 would be fair for the Timberwolves. Next up, we've got the Pelicans. I'm just going to race through these last few because they don't have a lot of interesting stuff. Zion comes back, they're higher than this. If Zion comes back, they're maybe above the Mavericks and Timberwolves. Whatever happens with Zion, this team's going to be decent. I think they make the playoffs again. Dyson Daniels looks to be good. I'd agree with 8. Number 9, you've got the Los Angeles Lakers. Darvin Ham's the new head coach there. Lonnie Walker and Thomas Bryant, 2 very good cheap signings for the Lakers. I really like this. Malik Monk and most of their veterans out of the team are off the team now in this offseason. You still have LeBron. You still got AD. Still have Russell Westbrook, hoping he can change or go back to at least something that he used to be. And if Anthony Davis stays healthy, this team is very good, obviously. So that's a big if, though. The Lakers at 9 is respectable. Trailblazers at 10. Maybe, I guess. You bring in Jeremy Grant, Gary Payton II, Shaedon Sharpe, who is going to be a big problem in the NBA, in my opinion. Trailblazers at 10, I'll agree with that. Jazz at 11, if they trade Donovan Mitchell, obviously they're going down the Quinn Snyder fire. Don't agree with that at all. I think he's a magnificent coach. Losing Rudy Gobert, Royce O'Neal, and Daniel House. They do bring in a few young pieces from the Gobert trade. Jazz are obviously rebuilding, and you don't really expect them to be bad, or you don't expect them to be good. You do expect them to be bad. The Sacramento Kings, they had an okay offseason. 12 is fine with them. They brought in a few decent pieces. Keegan Murray looks very good so far in the summer, or what we saw in the summer league, so that's a good addition for them. They're going to be bad still. Maybe a play-in appearance if if they get lucky. Oklahoma City Thunder, Chet Holmgren alone makes them a very interesting team. They get both the Jalen Williams, Ousmane Dieng, and they save a lot of cap space, or they lose a lot of cap space by re-signing guys. But I'm a big fan of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm a big fan of Josh Giddey. I think this team is finally en route for maybe a play-in appearance. I think it's time that the Thunder stop the tanking. They let their guys play, and they hope for the best. It's going to be an interesting season for them. Rockets at 14, yeah, they lose their best player on offense and defense, Christian Wood. They bring in Jabari Smith. Nothing really outside of that. They've got a lot of young guys, an interesting team. I'll agree with 14th. And obviously, last but not least, or last but most definitely least, the San Antonio Spurs blew it up. They lost pretty much all of their best players, DeJounte Murray, Lonnie Walker, all of those guys. They did get Jeremy Sochan, a guy we didn't get to see play in Summer League, but they are just now beginning their rebuild, so obviously they are going to be last. Josh Primo has a chance to star on this team, and hopefully he can do something with it, but at the end of the day, they're definitely the 15th seed, or the 15th best team in the Western Conference. What do you guys think about these power rankings? I agreed with a large portion of them. If you enjoy this type of content, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Comment down below how you're feeling about these. I love to talk to you guys about this type of stuff. And like I said earlier in the video, make sure to check out my 2K video, which will be airing tomorrow. We're going to be looking at what if Kevin Durant never left the OKC Thunder for Golden State in the 2016 offseason. It's going to be a fun simulation. We're going to be seeing what would happen if that never happened. Thank you guys for watching this one. I'll see you next time. Peace.